Hello everyone. The best news for the Vietnamese diaspora community in the United States over the past few days is probably this. The perpetrators behind the Kim Hưng jewelry store robbery in early September have been identified. 7 suspects were arrested one by one in a decisive crackdown by the San Jose Police Department in California. In today's video, Vietnamese Case Files will look back at the intense, suspenseful, month-long investigation to see how these brazen robbers were tracked down and what the Kim Hưng jewelry store's situation is like now after the tragedy. Before we begin, please note that all content in today's video has been researched and compiled by our team from multiple sources. If there are any errors or details that need correction, please leave a comment below so we can update and revise accordingly. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications right now so you won't miss other gripping cases on Vietnamese Case Files. Thank you for your support. San Jose, California, on September 5th, 2025. Inside a small jewelry shop called Kim Hưng, located in the heart of Little Saigon, an area with a large Vietnamese community in East San Jose, it was already late afternoon. The owner, an 88-year-old Vietnamese elder, and his son were getting ready to close. The day's transactions were done, and valuable items were being moved into the safe. The roll-up gate was about to come down. It looked like an ordinary day was ending peacefully. But just seconds later, everything was turned upside down. From the street outside, a gray Ford Explorer SUV suddenly accelerated and charged straight toward the shopfront. The engine roared across the quiet lot. Then, bang, the vehicle slammed into the front glass with tremendous force. The entire storefront shattered. A large display case was shoved deep into the interior. Before the father and son could even process what was happening, they were standing in the middle of chaos, the ceiling still trembling from the impact. At that moment, a group of masked individuals in dark clothing and gloves rushed inside. There were no words, no hesitation. They moved like they were executing a well-rehearsed plan. The son tried to reach his father, but he couldn't. One of the robbers threatened him with a firearm, forcing him to freeze. Meanwhile, the others swung sledgehammers into the glass cases, the cracking blasts sounding almost like gunshots. Necklaces, gold rings, bracelets, and gemstones were swept up in an instant. One robber yanked a valuable item right out of the elderly man's hands. Another shoved him to the floor, despite the fact that he was old enough to be their grandfather. The son was kept at gunpoint, pressed into a corner, too afraid to move. The power imbalance was absolute. In under 40 seconds, they finished smashing and grabbing, stuffed the stolen jewelry into black trash bags they had brought, and rushed back out. They left the store, cut across the parking lot, and jumped into at least 4 other cars waiting nearby, disappearing into San Jose's heavy traffic. The SUV used for the initial smash and grab was abandoned behind them, sitting still like an emptied shell of evidence. San Jose has seen its share of jewelry store robberies, but this one, carried out in less than a minute, in broad daylight, in a busy neighborhood, showed just how reckless and organized this professional crew was. What made them target Kim Hưng? Was it a random hit, or the result of weeks of surveillance and scouting? And where would all that stolen gold and jewelry end up? 10 minutes after the robbery, the store owner's granddaughter unexpectedly stopped by and witnessed the horrifying scene. The 88-year-old man was in severe shock in a corner of the shop, his feet smeared with blood after stepping on shattered glass. Terror had pushed him close to delirium as he kept repeating in Vietnamese, "Oh my God, are they gone yet?" Panicking, she immediately called both the police and an ambulance. Within 5 minutes of receiving the call, patrol officers from the San Jose Police Department, SJPD, arrived at the scene. What greeted them was devastation. The entire storefront had been smashed in, the doorframe and security roll-up gate were bent out of shape, and broken glass was everywhere. The perpetrator's SUV was gone, leaving a gaping hole right at the entrance. Inside, the glass jewelry display cases were shattered. Fragments of glass, twisted frames, and scattered jewelry littered the floor. Dusty airbag residue and a faint burnt metal smell still hung in the air. Investigators quickly secured the scene and assisted paramedics in providing first aid. The elderly owner was still on the floor, but had lost consciousness, with a weak pulse after suffering a stroke from the impact and extreme psychological shock. He had multiple cuts on his hands and head from the shattered glass, and blood had soaked a section of the floor. The other victim, his son, fortunately did not sustain serious physical injuries, but he was badly shaken. An ambulance rushed the elderly man to the hospital in critical condition, accompanied by his family. Meanwhile, investigators began canvassing the shop for clues. They noted long skid marks leading into the store, indicating the vehicle had accelerated to ram the entrance. A large sledgehammer dusted with shattered glass had been left behind near the counter, likely dropped by the robbers as they fled in haste. The most important lead at the scene was the store's security camera system. Detectives quickly seized the DVR connected to multiple cameras inside and outside the shop. During an initial check, they were relieved to see the entire robbery had been clearly captured from multiple angles. The chilling footage showed everything. The SUV smashing through the front, more than a dozen dark-clad figures rushing in, smashing display cases, scooping up gold and jewelry, and sprinting back out, all in under a minute. The cameras also captured a tall robber pointing a gun at the owner's son to keep him still, while another shoved the elderly owner to the floor. Watching the video, investigators couldn't help but feel both anger and horror at the robber's cruelty. Even seasoned officers shook their heads. It's rare to see someone nearly 90 years old assaulted so violently in a property crime. When the footage was later released, it sent shockwaves through the public. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan said he was outraged and pledged that police would do everything possible to bring the robbery crew to justice. Immediately after the robbery, the San Jose Police Department launched a special task force, deploying its most seasoned investigators from the SJPD robbery unit. Based on the scene and the surveillance footage, authorities assessed that this was an organized robbery carried out with highly professional tactics. Investigators also determined that more than 10 suspects took part in the attack, moving with extreme speed and reckless boldness. Using a vehicle to ram straight through the storefront was a rare, audacious method, evidence that the operation had been carefully planned. The scene yielded very little biological evidence, such as fingerprints or DNA, because the robbers wore gloves throughout. However, high-quality security footage provided crucial early leads, including their clothing style, body builds, the weapons they used, and the vehicles involved in their escape. One of the getaway vehicles was identified as a black Jeep Grand Cherokee, a large model with a powerful engine. After checking databases, police found that a black Jeep Grand Cherokee had been stolen from a parking lot in San Jose just one day before the robbery. It was highly likely this was the same vehicle used in the crime. This lead shifted investigators' focus toward professional car theft crews operating in the area. At the same time, witness statements were collected in detail. The store owner's son, who was inside during the robbery, recalled that the crew consisted of more than a dozen individuals, mostly young, dressed alike, black hoodies, gloves, and face masks, speaking American accented slang. One suspect with a gun shouted threats, warning he would shoot if the son resisted. Others used sledgehammers and hard objects to smash every glass display case within seconds, stealing jewelry estimated to be worth tens of thousands of USD, mainly 18-karat gold and diamonds. The entire incident lasted less than 60 seconds. The witness added that before fleeing, one robber knocked the elderly owner down and kicked him hard while he was on the floor, and then the group ran from the scene. This showed not only speed, but clear role assignment. Some stayed outside as lookouts, one controlled the victims, and the rest focused on grabbing the merchandise. Several people from nearby businesses reported hearing a loud crash, like an explosion. When they rushed outside, they saw a black SUV and 2 to 3 other cars speeding away, but no one could make out the license plates. These small details, pieced together, helped investigators form an overall picture. A large, well-prepared crew likely escaped in multiple directions. Given the severity of the case, more than 100 officers from at least 5 different units, including the FBI and police from neighboring cities, were brought in to investigate and hunt the suspects, along with 4 SWAT teams on standby. Detectives split into multiple teams across the Bay Area to gather leads, from traffic camera footage along suspected escape routes, to mobile phone location data near the crime scene, to checks of black market gold channels to see whether the stolen items were being fenced. The round-the-clock effort began to pay off. Just 1 week after the robbery, police obtained traffic camera footage showing the suspected black Jeep Grand Cherokee heading east immediately afterward. That trace led them to the city of Manteca in Central California. There, officers found a Jeep burned down to its frame on an empty lot. Although the vehicle was burned to destroy evidence, police were still able to recover several key pieces of proof. First, the VIN matched the Jeep that had been reported stolen the day before. More importantly, investigators found a latent fingerprint on the interior rearview mirror, likely left behind by the driver. That print was immediately run through the federal fingerprint identification system. The result matched an 18-year-old named Jacques Samuel, who had a prior record for car theft in Oakland. This first solid lead greatly energized the task force. Still, going from one identified person to an entire crew was a long road. Police began covert surveillance on Jacques Samuel to trace his associates. Around the same time, the San Francisco Bay Area was shaken by another brazen robbery. On September 22, 2025, about 20 armed robbers stormed Heller Jewelry in San Ramon, roughly 60 kilometers from San Jose, smashed display cases, and stole multiple pieces of jewelry in broad daylight. The pattern strongly resembled the Kim Hung case, a large group, weapons involved, and multiple getaway cars staged nearby. Police immediately considered the possibility that both robberies were carried out by the same crew. If so, it meant their boldness was escalating fast. The good news was that no one was injured in San Ramon. Even more fortunate, San Ramon police managed to pursue the suspects and intercept several of them as they fled toward Oakland and Dublin. San Ramon police quickly shared the information with San Jose. And one of the detained suspects was Jacques Samuel, the same man whose fingerprint had been found on the burned-out Jeep in Manteca. His arrest in the San Ramon robbery became a major breakthrough for the Kim Hung case. San Jose investigators immediately traveled to interview Jacques Samuel at the Dublin jail, Alameda County. At first, Jacques denied involvement, but faced with the fingerprint match and the San Ramon robbery video, he was forced to provide leads on his accomplices. Samuel admitted he took part in the Kim Hung robbery on September 5th as a runner, meaning he rushed in to grab and scoop up jewelry. He then provided the nicknames of several of the group's leaders. Based on his statements, San Jose police gradually identified 6 additional suspects tied to the Kim Hung robbery. Arrest and search warrants for the 7 suspects were approved one after another, marking the start of a dramatic takedown phase. On September 22, 2025, Dublin police, Alameda County, formally arrested Jacques Samuel, already in custody for the San Ramon case, on allegations tied to the Kim Hung robbery pending transfer to Santa Clara County. Next, on September 30th, 2025, a major operation was carried out almost simultaneously at 4 different locations to capture the remaining suspects. Angel Herrera, 21, was arrested in Pacifica. Tadisha Mayfield, 31, was taken into custody in San Leandro. Zachary Blue Gordon, 23, was arrested in San Jose, and Tom Dunnigan, 19, was captured while hiding in Manteca. By October 2nd, 2025, the final 2 suspects, Cisco Lutu, 18, and Amari Green, 21, were also arrested when police raided a home in Antioch. The arrests were swift and orderly, with no significant resistance, thanks to the element of surprise and tight coordination among agencies. During searches of the suspects' residences, police seized a large amount of stolen property and other key evidence. In particular, at Tadisha Mayfield's home in San Leandro, officers found a Glock 19 handgun with a fully loaded magazine. Investigators believe this may have been the firearm used to threaten victims inside Kim Hung. Police also recovered several gold bracelets and diamond rings that had not yet been fenced, matching items reported stolen from Kim Hung. More seriously, at the Antioch hideout linked to Cisco Lutu and Amari Green, officers seized a large quantity of illegal drugs along with packaging materials, signs that the group was also involved in unlawful narcotic sales. This discovery opened a new investigative angle. The crew may have used proceeds from selling stolen jewelry to buy drugs for distribution, or conversely, committed robberies to finance a drug operation. All seized items were sealed as evidence for later criminal proceedings. At a press conference on October 3, 2025, San Jose police officially announced the arrest of 7 key suspects connected to the Kim Hung jewelry robbery. Deputy Chief Brian Schaab stated, 7 criminals, people who beat an elderly man, destroyed a family business, and terrorized an entire community, are now behind bars. He emphasized, this wasn't a crime of hardship or desperation. It was a violent, organized robbery, part of a smash and grab pattern that's spreading across the Bay Area and throughout the state. However, the investigation is not stopping there. Police believe the crew may be linked to multiple other jewelry store robberies in the region. Investigators say some members were also involved in a recent robbery at a jewelry store in Milpitas, as well as the brazen San Ramon robbery on September 22, 2025. For that reason, San Jose police are working with neighboring jurisdictions to broaden the investigation and map this criminal network across the wider region. Notably, the publicly released suspect profiles show the group was very young. Most were only 18 to 21 years old at the time of arrest. They lived in multiple cities, forming an unusually multi-city structure. This suggests they were not a typical local street crew, but potentially part of a larger network connected through social media or underground contact. Tadisha Mayfield, 31, was the oldest suspect and the only woman in the group. She had previously been arrested for auto theft and receiving stolen property several years earlier, but received probation. Investigators believe she may have served as a connector within the crew, as she reportedly had prior ties to some of the other suspects. The remaining members also had troubled backgrounds. Some had minor records from their juvenile years, such as petty theft or drug possession. It appears they came together primarily to make illegal money, forming a mobile robbery crew that specifically targeted jewelry stores. However, investigators have not found evidence so far that any member belonged to a traditional organized crime gang. This appears to be a newer type of criminal crew, assembled temporarily to pull off a major job, split the loot, and then disperse. According to early statements, they chose Kim Hưng simply because they thought it would be an easy score. The shop was fairly small, with no security guard. The owner was elderly, and the security system wasn't particularly modern. Everything about it made it an ideal target in the eyes of people short on cash. That's why the group's motive was clear: greed and profit. The black market could help them quickly fence the gold and jewelry, bringing in tens of thousands of USD in cash to split among themselves. And even though most of the crew were teenagers, investigators described them as extremely aggressive and brazen, willing to use excessive violence when necessary. They believed that by acting so boldly and recklessly, police would never be able to identify everyone involved. But reality proved the opposite. Law enforcement tracked them down quickly, and the justice system will punish those who spread terror through the community. As of now, the legal process is still ongoing. The Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office said it would pursue tough charges against the group, including armed robbery, assault on an elderly victim causing serious injury, conspiracy to commit a felony, unlawful weapon offenses, and possibly drug trafficking charges as well, based on the cocaine that was seized. Each charge carries heavy potential penalties, and if convicted on all counts, the defendants could face decades behind bars, possibly even life sentences for some. At the October 3rd press conference, District Attorney Jeff Rosen stressed that his office would do everything possible to deliver justice for the victims and deter this kind of crime. He said, "When small businesses are attacked, our entire community is attacked. These criminals won't be facing just a few isolated shopkeepers. They'll be facing the police chief, prosecutors, the mayor, and me. And when we're attacked, we will fight back all the way." That hardline statement signaled a fierce legal battle ahead for the Kim Hưng jewelry store robbery crew. In the first days after the arrests, the suspects' attitudes varied. Some stayed defiant, silent, or evasive, while others, like Jacques Samuel, showed some willingness to cooperate in hopes of leniency. The Santa Clara County Superior Court quickly held initial arraignment hearings for each suspect. The judge described the case as extremely serious, organized, and violent. So most of the suspects were held without bail due to concerns they might flee or pose a danger to the public. The defendants will go through the full criminal process, from preliminary hearings and plea negotiations to a full trial if they do not plead guilty. With strong evidence, surveillance video, weapons, statements, and recovered property, along with intense attention from officials, many believe the upcoming court proceedings will result in sentences that match the severity of the crimes. As for Kim Hưng jewelry, the family estimates the robbery caused losses of up to $50,000. But more important is the owner's health. The 88-year-old suffered a stroke after the fall and was unable to answer questions when his granddaughter arrived. Thankfully, because emergency care came in time, he survived, was treated at the hospital, and returned home after 5 days. However, he remained terrified and traumatized, and even considered closing the shop after the ordeal. Notably, the robbery happened just days after financial advisory firm SmartAsset ranked San Jose as the safest city in the United States. While that assessment can't be dismissed entirely, the reality is that dark spots still exist. According to statistics, from March 2025 to early October 2025, California alone saw around 30 violent robberies targeting jewelry stores, including 16 brazen smash and grab cases like this. Offenders often exploit California's relatively lenient approach to theft, along with the advantage of acting in large groups and moving lightning fast to evade punishment. In the San Jose area specifically, a string of organized robberies has left residents and small business owners deeply worried. This reality has forced local authorities to speak out. City leaders have called for stronger security measures and tougher crackdowns, stressing that these violent attacks on small businesses are seriously threatening the community's sense of safety. Many owners of jewelry shops, nail salons, and spas in the area have proactively upgraded security by installing reinforced metal gates, impact-resistant glass, and camera systems that send real-time alerts to their phones. Others have hired armed security guards to stand watch, especially during peak hours. San Jose police have also increased patrols in Vietnamese commercial districts to reassure the public. What do you think? How severe will the punishment be for the suspects in this case? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you found today's story compelling, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Vietnamese Case Files so you won't miss more gripping cases in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you again at this time tomorrow.